The Jetsons and the Flintstones. Two different animated families from the 1960s were great family shows in the early age of our color TVs. The Jetsons personified our future, while the Flintstones personified the past. Both told common-day stories of work and family life that we can still relate to today. Workplace drama, parenting, and coexisting in a time of evolving technology. In today's era of the Flintstones versus the Jetsons are strikes, devastating natural disasters, and our responses to the crisis at hand. Humans versus advanced technology continue to both connect us and divide us. There are answers, and it starts with each of us. We'll dive right in when we come back. You are listening to the Work Life Eubiosis podcast with your host, Charleston Edwards. If this is your first time here, welcome. My goal is simple: to eradicate burnout and to bring harmony, purpose, and balance to this world, starting with the family. My hope is that this show and the story shared will provide encouragement and ideas that will be valuable to you on your journey to work-life freedom. So let's dive in to today's episode. The Flintstones are waging war against the Jetsons. The Jetsons' fictional over-the-top depiction in the 1960s of our future technology is not so far-fetched anymore. As more microchips are being inserted into our work, the Flintstones are doing everything to throw rocks at these robots. The war of human effort versus machine impacts all of us no matter what line of work that we're in. No matter how we do our job, there's always a push to make it easier, more efficient, and more economical. Consider today part 2 of last week's topic of Amazon's punching of the clock. Last week, the Eubiosis analyzed the battle of returning to the office and the demand for remote work. This week, because of what's happening in our country, I would like to spotlight everybody else who is not tied down to an office atmosphere. It's the everybody else who is pivotal to the operations of our society. The majority of the time, these unsung heroes have to leave home to service or to save us. They protect our country. They respond to emergencies. They stock our shelves. They flip our burgers. They transport people. They put out fires. They teach our children. They help kids cross the streets. They tend to the sick. They pave our highways. They build our bridges. They serve those who travel. They fix our cars. They feed the homeless. They run our power grids. They manufacture what we buy. They build our homes. They fix our homes. They deliver our goods. They rescue us from disasters. Behind the ideas, designs, engineering, coding, planning, selling, and marketing of the typical office worker, our unsung heroes are in the trenches every single day getting their hands dirty. They are not typically glorified by our media, and they usually aren't celebrated until something goes wrong. In the last 2 weeks, a lot has gone wrong. We have come to realize, once again, how pivotal our skilled workers and trades are to our society. We saw this during the pandemic as office workers went home to resume work, but everyone listed above had to show up to keep our society running. They were asked to risk their lives in the face of a highly contagious virus with their chosen contribution to this world. For the last week, the topic of water has spotlighted the infrastructures of our blue-collar superheroes. How we organize our goods arriving by water, to how the water of epic proportions has crippled many lives. These two non-related incidents from the ports to the Appalachian Mountains have both divided and united our country. And yet again, left in the middle of the war of opinions are those that roll up their sleeves as a profession or out of choice to help those in the direst need. My heart goes out to all individuals and families who are being impacted directly or indirectly by Hurricane Helene. On top of this, international wars and election debates continue to remind us that our world is continuing to change before our eyes. These incidents are a reminder that we must put people as our priority in our daily lives. We must find rest for our own souls and pass our lights to the next person who just may be facing dark times. We can no longer take our basic needs or our lives for granted. Our job is to love and care for the next person the way that we've been gifted. Time, money, resources, or skill. We all have something to give. And a huge, huge shout out to those who are doing this as a profession or through volunteer work. We need more of you. We are living in the Jetsons' reality. As mentioned in last week's Eubiosis, the book Arriving Today is an amazing explanation of the past, present, and future of logistics of how we receive the goods that we purchase. The author, Christopher Mims, chronicles the journey of a USB charger from the original manufacturer in Vietnam to his front door in Minnesota. Mims flies to Vietnam and goes on to travel with the USB charger through every mode of transportation, each transport container, each distribution center, all the way to the final mile of the Amazon delivery driver. Along the way, he interviews the workers, drivers, sailors, longshoresmen, and the warehouse workers. And then he summarizes the trends in each industry and provides a detailed history and a future highlight reel of our global transportation infrastructures. Mims' storytelling in a journalistic format sheds a spotlight of the changing technologies and human behavior in our global economy through the lens of how we get our goods to and through our front doors. As a society, our daily choices on consumption are fuel to a growing drive to further automize every segment of the supply chain. Throughout the book, written during the pandemic, by the way, Mims shares the challenges and triumphs of humans versus automation in each aspect of the manufacturing, shipping, and transportation. Like Zoom, automation of the supply chain morphed practically overnight during the pandemic. Meanwhile, truckers, sailors, warehouse workers, and the longshoresmen doubled down in a rarely spotlighted warfare to keep fair working conditions and wages in light of a global race to automate every aspect of their jobs. The result and the future of the supply chain are fully automated. Ports like Los Angeles, self-driving tractor trailers, and AI-operated distribution centers for how we get our goods. The Jetsons are taking over, and the Flintstones at our ports are protesting and asking for their share that will inevitably be invested into full mode automation. Fast forward to this past week's headline news. The longshoremen are clearly fighting for more money. And yes, most of them are making more than 6-digit salaries. So it makes it really hard for some people to find empathy, especially when there are others on the other side of our society that just lost lives and their homes due to the flood. But before we totally alienate their motives, this fight is more than money, at least for some. This is the battle to keep the automation from taking their job. This is a fight that goes beyond the ports. It's a battle to keep lives simple and slower. Our world's ports are trending like the local McDonald's and Walmart self-checkouts, and the robots are being lined up to increase productivity, speed, and efficiency. All great to keep up with the consumer's demands for product, but if the motive for speed is all about the bottom line, or need for instant deliveries, then the values and the livelihoods of the workers in the trenches are going to be jeopardized by the stakeholders making the decisions. There are so many factors and unseen variables for every single person impacted by this strike. Given the time of day, I'm sure we could all come to understand both sides of this labor dispute. I understand why anybody on either side of this, now being a postponed dispute, would have strong opinions. The bottom line is that the Jetsons and the Flintstones are at war. I like them both. Most of us do. This is the conundrum of our advancement of technology that impacts all of us. We love the speed. We want to be better connected. 99% of us use technology daily to make our lives better. But technology in all its glory can never replace the human soul. Humans versus machines is a fight that continues to happen and may never go away on this side of heaven. Those who are fighting the algorithm are fighting for respect. When the algorithm is driving the work, it ignores human dignity and the values of the person trying to do the work. Labor disputes of this kind go back to biblical times when laborers were not a fan of the harsh conditions under King Solomon. More recent than that, many would call the picket line the origin of the word sabotage. The French word sabotage legendarily comes from factory labor disputes in the early 1900s, where French workers were wearing wooden shoes called sabots. They would slow down and stop production by throwing their sabots into the machine. The word sabotage can also be traced back to the inception of the industrial age in the early 1800s in England, when the Luddites protested against the use of automated machinery due to the concern of decreased pay for textile workers and the reduction of output quality. The present-day sabotages have not changed. Fair wage, fair working conditions, fair time to work and create. Workers want to work hard and smart without being replaced by robots. These 3 points continue to be the source of contention going against those that are only looking at the speed and efficiency to boost the bottom line. The Flintstones don't want the Jetsons' technology, so they have stopped production. Today, only 3% of the world's shipping terminals are automated, according to MIMS. But that is changing before our eyes. 97% of the ports are semi-automated, where humans operate the cranes, load trucks, and organize containers. Human brains and human hands are orchestrating the work. However, there is a strong pull on all segments of the society to keep up. How we order our food, how we check out at retail, how we Uber, to how we self-drive or don't self-drive our Teslas. Automating the ports, just like automating any industry, would reduce emissions, speed up productivity, increase efficiencies, reduce errors, and get our goods to our doors and shelves even faster. Automation is not necessarily bad and could be great for the environment, but there are lives at stake with any decision or negotiation made. I can understand the strike, but I can also understand the push to keep up with the times. Meanwhile, society is stuck in the middle. Our choices also matter. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Own Your 5 to 9, an organization committed to freeing families of the rat race and burnout. Every organization has a leader, mission, and a set of values that drives the organization. But this is commonly missed in the most important organization in the world, the family. An organization has one mission for how it will impact the world. Why not the family? An organization goes into strategic planning routinely to align its values, mission, and projects. Why not the family? Whose Home, a strategic planning guide for families, is a workbook and a tool needed in all households. Whose Home takes a strategic planning approach with 10 guided exercises to define your core family values, family mission, and tools to operationalize how your family does life together. If your family is facing a big decision, Whose Home is for you. If you're considering a career pivot, Whose Home is also for you. If you desire more intentionality and harmony in your home, Whose Home is for you. Create a healthy culture, not a hustle culture, at home. Visit ownyour5to9.com to claim your copy today. There's good news. The Flintstones and the Jetsons can coexist. We don't live in the Flintstones Stone Age anymore, but it doesn't mean we have to fully adopt the lifestyle of the Jetsons' orbit city. There's a place for all of us. There's a purpose for all of us. Christopher Mims argues that when automation takes over human jobs, there's an opportunity to reskill and train workers to work on, maintain, and oversee the robot. This reskilling has happened with many industries and advancing technologies all over the world and over the history of this world. So as we inevitably advance our society with more microstrips and newer automated ways of work, it's natural for each and every one of us to keep up with the times. But as some of us and some of our jobs are getting replaced and enhanced by technology, we still have choices in either to reskill or to move industries or to go independent. At breaking points of tragedies and recessions in the history of this world, the opportunity has always birthed innovation for individuals, families, and industries. We are at that place right now as we rush to help out the devastated communities in crisis. For our daily work, we can either hold the line or we can move forward and find ways to learn and innovate. But the key to this is to take our eye off the world and for each of us to look in the mirror and make sure we know our unique purpose in this world. The heart for others is the foundation of the purpose of our lives. More than ever, millions of people need our immediate help, prayers, and support. We are most likely 1 degree of association from someone who has been hit hard by these floods. The American Red Cross, Hands On Network, Operation Blessing, Samaritan's Ministries are just a few of the great outlets to donate our time and funds to. But beyond the typical modes of donating, there is a place in our daily lives to be a good Samaritan right where we are at. We must slow down our pace of life and intentionally sabotage the hustle culture and find ways to check in on our neighbor or stranger, not just once, but daily. We all have the ability to build more white space on the calendar and then go ask someone, are you okay? How are you really doing? Is there anything that I can help you with today? Then pending their response, be ready to help, adapt the schedule, or just sit there to be a listening ear. Who knows what will happen in the weeks to come in this country or in this world? But let's take more time to invest in both our diverse and like-minded communities, to share what we have with the next person with the mindset that we will reap what we sow, but not to give in expectation to receive something back, but to give from the heart with no expectation for return. To quote a recent post from a blog that I read, it summarizes this podcast. It says, technology promises a more connected world. The reality is that it has contributed to a lonelier one. And the first step to pivoting back towards its initial promise is to be aware of how it went astray. That's a powerful quote. As the conveniences of technology, automation, and machines are connecting us right now, millions are disconnected from the rest of this world because of Hurricane Helene. They have years ahead of them to rebuild all that has been lost. and to emotionally deal with the loss and death that they just experienced. With or without technology, we all have the ability to be a good human, using the resources at hand to help out our neighbors. We may not have the skill or resources to physically help those stranded throughout the Southeast communities, but someone next door, or maybe just a few doors down, has a need. We just may be the answer to their prayers. From one of the world's most beloved neighbors, Mr. Rogers, who coined the phrase, "Look for the helpers when tragedy hits." I'm going to add on to that. Let's not only look for the helpers, let's be the helpers. Let's take a page from the unsung heroes that I mentioned at the top of this episode and be those neighbors. Let's be those helpers. Thank you for listening to the Work-Life Eubiosis podcast, part of the work-life resources created by Own Your 5 to 9. I hope that you have found encouragement and a few ideas to strengthen your journey to purpose, freedom, and balance. Have you overcome burnout and found a new way of life? Millions around the globe are still at the risk of burnout and losing it all. And your story may be the one that sparks not only a dream, but action. Visit ownyour5to9.com for more information and submit your story. While you're there, join the Work-Life Eubiosis newsletter and receive additional resources weekly right to your inbox. If you enjoy this podcast, take time to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Share it with a friend or loved one. Remember, the most important organization in the world is the family. Let's do our part to strengthen it. Thank you for listening.